everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Season and Serve. My name is Melissa, and in today's video, we are kicking off my Thanksgiving series here on YouTube, and this year, we are making a Canadian Thanksgiving feast. Now, I've been doing my Thanksgiving series here on YouTube for quite a few years now. I think this is probably the third or fourth iteration that I've done, so there's lots of amazing Thanksgiving videos out there, but they're more traditional, I would say. But this year, we're putting a Canadian spin on things, and I've designed an entire menu from appetizers all the way to desserts that incorporates different cultures and different backgrounds and different foods that are available across Canada and bringing them together in a delicious meal. And first up, we are making our appetizer, and this year I am making Bannock Bites, and I'm doing that two ways. I have one version with smoked salmon, cream cheese, and Saskatoon berry jam, and then I'm making another version with a homemade cranberry chutney and Boursin cheese. And I thought this was a really great recipe to start off our Thanksgiving feast because it is honoring the Indigenous people of Canada and the lands from which we got all of our amazing food to make this meal. So make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and let's get cooking. All right, so we're going to start off by making our Bannock, and the Bannock recipe is the same for both the appetizers. So the only thing that's different between the two is the toppings. So this Bannock recipe that I'm making is super special because it is Grandma Sherry's recipe. Grandma Sherry is definitely my favorite Canadian content creator. She is Indigenous and lives in Saskatchewan, and she just shares the best videos. She shares recipes, traditional knowledge, medicines, things like that, all coming from her knowledge and lived experience throughout life. And it is just so refreshing. It is so calming. And, you know, really amongst all the crazy stuff we're seeing on TikTok these days, her content is just a breath of fresh air. So make sure you go follow Grandma Sherry. I will leave the link to her TikTok in the description box below. Grandma Sherry, if you're watching, you're the best. The Bannock is a really easy recipe, and all you need is 4 ingredients. You just need flour, water, baking powder, and salt, and then oil if you want to fry it. But it is super easy, and let me walk you through how to make it. So we're starting off with a cup of flour plus 2 tablespoons in a bowl, because Grandma Sherry always does kind of like heaped measurements. So I'm adding basically about 2 tablespoons extra in there. I'm adding a teaspoon of baking powder, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. There we go. So we're going to mix this up with clean hands, of course. Get that all mixed up together. Get all the salt and the baking powder incorporated so you get an even rise on your Bannock. And then we're going to add about 1/2 cup of water. And the amount of water kind of varies depending on the temperature of the day, the moisture levels in the air. So you might need to add more or you might need to add less. So kind of adjust it as you see fit. Surprisingly, I need to add a little bit more water. Normally that doesn't happen here on the West Coast because it is always moist with the rain, but I guess it hasn't rained in a while, so not too much moisture in the air. All right, so when your Bannock is good and sticky, we are gonna start kneading this with a little bit more flour. So if it is on the sticky side, kind of like mine is now, it's okay because we're gonna add a little bit more flour as we need. So let me clear the decks and we'll get to kneading. And as we do that, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the history of Bannock. Okay, so I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on my work surface here. You can do this directly on the counter, but just for easy cleanup for me, I like to use this little silicone sheet mat here. But we're going to dump our Bannock out. We're going to take the Bannock though and start kneading. And we're just going to knead it just kind of like we're kneading bread dough. So we're just going to turn it and fold, just so everything comes together. So a lot of times when people hear about Bannock, people today often really associate it with the Indigenous peoples of Canada. However, Bannock was originally a Scottish recipe. And in Scotland, I believe they call them Teutons or Toutons. I'm not 100% sure how to say it, but it's actually Scottish. But when colonial settlers came to Canada and everything that we know about Canadian history and Indigenous peoples happened, the colonial settlers really introduced Bannock to the Indigenous people, and they did this through flour, which was given to them in their rations. So over the years, I think Bannock has really become synonymous with the Indigenous people of Canada. You know, even today, you know, it's a recipe that is passed down in families. Also, if you go to festivals, so like for National Indigenous Peoples Day, or even for Truth and Reconciliation Day, that's coming up actually really soon when this video is going to be coming out. But yeah, there's always Bannock there in so many different forms, but it's basically fried bread. And honestly, what is better than fried bread? While I love this recipe on its own, I am bringing in a little bit more traditional foods that Indigenous people would have eaten in Canada or still eat today, for that matter. So for instance, in the salmon version of the Bannock Bite that I'm making today, obviously salmon is very important for Indigenous people historically and to present day, at least here in BC. All the nations that have access to salmon, it is one of their traditional foods. And Saskatoon berry jam is also a traditional food. Saskatoon berries grow not in just Saskatchewan, it grows all over Canada, and it is a traditional berry that's harvested and is so good. It's kind of like a more flavorful blueberry, I would say. It is delicious. And then of course the cranberry version of the Bannock Bite that I'm making, cranberries are a traditional food for Indigenous peoples in Canada. They were harvesting high bush cranberries as well as cranberries in bogs, way back, millennia, we're talking. So that was a traditional food that was used for eating as well as medicine. So I think that recipe is going to be really good and also is a nice fun play on using a traditional food. So all that talking, you can see that our bannock is basically ready. It is nice and smooth and soft. It is not sticky, which is perfect. And you saw I probably added a little bit more flour here and there. But we are going to let this bannock just rest at room temperature for about 20 minutes. I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap so it doesn't lose any moisture. And then when it rests, it'll kind of soften up and we can roll it and cut it out and everything and get it ready for frying. While this is resting, we're going to work on preparing our cranberry chutney. So let me show you how I made it. So to start off this cranberry chutney recipe, I'm adding a little bit of olive oil to a pan, and then I'm going to add in some finely chopped onion and very finely chopped ginger. And then I'm going to add in some cranberries as well as some finely chopped apple. We're also going to be adding brown sugar and a pinch of cinnamon just to give it a little bit of that holiday flavor. And of course, with all my recipes that I show here on YouTube, all the full measurements and directions are available on my website, so I'll leave the link to that in the description box below. And then once all the cranberries start to release their water, I'm going to add in some golden raisins. So once most of the water has evaporated, we are going to add some apple cider vinegar at the very end and then mix everything together. And that is it for the cranberry chutney. All we're going to do is remove it from the heat, add it into a bowl and let it cool completely, and then we'll assemble it with our Bannock Bites. Okay, so our bannock has rested and now we're going to roll it out. So the bannock is rested and is ready to go. When you insert your finger into it, it'll stay indented. It won't really pop back out at you. If it does that, just leave it to rest maybe 5-10 minutes more, and that's how you know it's ready to go. We're going to take this and we're going to flatten it into a disc, and then we're going to use our knuckles to actually spread it out. So no rolling pins, because this is how Grandma Sherry does it. So we're going to use our knuckles and we're going to start in the middle and just kind of work our way out. Now with bannock, you can either fry it, which we're going to be doing today, or you can also bake it. But I've seen a few recipes that if you bake your bannock, it is actually better to add a little bit of oil to the dough so it doesn't get super dry in the oven. And I like to make the bannock about 1 centimeter thick, maybe 1.5 centimeters, because you want a good bite of the bannock for this appetizer. So now we're going to cut out our Bannock Bites. I'm going to use a little tiny cookie cutter here. Ooh. I'm using a small cookie cutter here because I want to make really nice, elegant, tiny appetizers. But if you want to make them bigger, you can use a cookie cutter about this size. We're going to make them little today, and they're going to be so cute. I can't wait for you to see them. So to cut them out, all we have to do is dip our little cookie cutter in some flour, and then let's cut it out, just like you're making cookies. We're going to put it down, and there's our first Bannock Bite. So cute. After you cut out your Bannock Bite, you also want to take a sharp knife. I'm using a paring knife here. We're going to dip that in flour, and then we're going to make a little tiny slit in the center of the Bannock Bite. This allows it to cook a little bit more evenly and let the oil kind of go through, kind of like a donut. So there we go. That's our first Bannock Bite. Now I'm just going to cut out the rest, and then I'll show you how to fry them. And I should say, after you're done this first round of all your Bannock Bites here, the dough can be rolled out again. However, as you roll the dough up and re-roll it, it does get a little bit tough. Let it sit for about 10-15 minutes and then roll it out again and then cut out more Bannock Bites. So it does get a little bit tough and it kind of takes a little bit of time to work through, but it's all good. It is well worth it, and you want to use up all this bannock dough. So now we're gonna fry our Bannock Bites, and we're gonna do a shallow fry here. So I have a nice pan set over now medium-high heat, and we're gonna add some oil. And I'm using peanut oil here because I like the flavor of peanut oil, but you can also use just regular vegetable oil as well. I'm just gonna pour the oil in the pan. I at least want 1 centimeter, maybe 1.5 centimeters of oil, just so that we can make sure they are fried really well. And the amount of oil that you'll need will depend on the pan or the pot that you have to fry them in, but just make sure there's at least 1 centimeter of oil in the pan. So you know the oil is hot enough when you take a chopstick or any sort of wooden utensil and put it in this oil. You will notice that it starts to bubble and kind of sizzle around the chopstick. So that's how you know it's ready. You can also test it with a wooden spoon or also an extra piece of dough. So we're just going to take our little Bannock Bites one at a time and carefully lay them into the oil. And when you do that, lay them away from you. Oh, that's perfect. See, they're sizzling, looking good. It's kind of like making little mini donuts, but savory, which is really nice. And make sure the oil isn't too hot. And I like to just turn stuff with chopsticks. I just think it's so easy. But as you see them start to get golden, flip them over. That one was golden first. That was the first one I popped in. And look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh, amazing. And you'll see that they do puff up a little bit, which is fine. They will deflate just slightly when they come out of the oil. And then to get ready for these to come out shortly, I'm just using a plate, and then I'm adding a little trivet on top and some paper towel to absorb the excess oil. So now our Bannock Bites are all ready, and we are going to assemble it. We're going to start off with the first version, which is the smoked salmon and Saskatoon berry jam version. So we're going to take our Bannock Bite. I'm going to take a little tiny dollop of cream cheese, and I'm going to spread it onto the Bannock. And oh, we got that. And then I made some little rosettes of salmon. I just take it and roll the salmon up. This is all local salmon, of course, from BC. I think it's from Barkley Sound, which is pretty cool when you know where your salmon comes from. So I'm just going to take a little rosette. I'm going to stick it on the cream cheese so it doesn't fall off. And then we're going to add some Saskatoon berry jam. This is from West Coast Wild Foods, and this is all foraged and made in BC. And like I was saying earlier, Saskatoon berries are kind of like blueberries, but like way better. So this is just delicious, and I love it so much. So we're going to take a very tiny amount of Saskatoon berry jam and then add it right next to the salmon. And then as a final garnish, I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of parsley. I'm adding like 1/4 of a leaf. So we're just going to add a little bit of green on there, but not have it, really add so much flavor, because we do want to taste the salmon and the Saskatoon berry jam. But that is our first little one done. It looks so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I love this. I just stop for a sec and make one for Pearl. Well, not a Bannock Bite, but I gave her some salmon because she was sleeping, and once she smelled this, she was up and she was like, I'm ready for some salmon. So she's eating her salmon over there now. But I made the 6 of them here, and now we're going to do a cranberry and boursin one. If you haven't had boursin cheese, I'm pretty sure everyone's had this by now, but this is originally a French cheese, but it's made in Quebec. And I have the cranberry and pepper one, so it pairs perfectly with our cranberry chutney that we made earlier. I was really lucky to find the cranberry boursin this time, because normally they just bring it out during the holidays, but my grocery store had it. So I was like, thank you. They know I shop there. So we're going to take our Bannock Bite and take a little bit of boursin, pop it on top. This time we can add a little bit more cheese. I'm going to take the cranberry chutney. I want to make sure to get some raisins on there. Just kind of scoop it on. Look at that. Just alone, we don't need any extra garnish. That looks beautiful. I'm sorry, but it's stunning. All right, and there you have it. Those are our Bannock Bites two ways, one with salmon and Saskatoon berry jam and cream cheese, and the other with a homemade cranberry chutney and Boursin cheese. These smell so good. I am so excited to enjoy these. I think this is such a fabulous recipe, and let's dig in. They're so light, so pillowy and fluffy. Oh my gosh. So that is it for today's video. That was just part one of my Canadian Thanksgiving series that I'm going to be showing here on YouTube. Again, if you want the recipe and the measurements for all of this, you can find that on my website, and I'll leave that link in the description box below. And I also want to say a very special thank you to Grandma Sherry. She's such an inspiration to me, and I love her so much, and her Bannock recipe is the best. So come back to my channel next Sunday, and I'm going to be showing you how to make our main dish and our side dishes as well. Again, all with Canadian ingredients. We are making a delicious maple glazed turkey breast, as well as poutine potatoes. I'm also going to make some mushroom and sage stuffing, as well as some sauteed Brussels sprouts and kale, because we need some vegetables. And if that wasn't good enough, the following week I will be doing my dessert recipe, which is a butter tart pie. Are you kidding? So make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below, and also make sure you go and follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm sharing lots of amazing fall content and Thanksgiving content right now, as well as Halloween, because we love Halloween, and I have a Halloween magazine out. So actually, let me show you that. So I have the fall edition of my Season and Serve magazine. This is a Sleepy Hollow Halloween edition, and it is filled with lots of Halloween inspiration, crafts, recipes. It is fabulous. So if you want the link to this, I will leave it in the description box below. And additionally, if you want more seasonal recipes, you can pick up a copy of my cookbook, Season and Serve, a cookbook for all seasons. I have everything organized into seasonal chapters, and the fall chapter easily is my favorite by far. So there's lots of great fall recipes in there, as well as recipes for the other seasons as well. So make sure you get a copy of this. There are only a limited amount available, so get them before they're gone. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to enjoy the best of the season every day.